everyone, we're just going to have a quick look at this Hawkesbury meeting that ran on Saturday. I'll normally do the reviews a little bit later than this when I get the verified times, but I do have to run away to Melbourne for a few days this week, so I thought I'd knock it out of the way a little bit early. Alright, so firstly the track, it was a bit faster than what was publicised, probably only a 3 to a 4, so it wasn't crazy quick. The times are a little bit funny, like they've all gone out quite slow. Nearly every race is a slow tempo. You don't see that often, so maybe the straight was a little bit quicker than the rest of the track. Something to take into account, but overall the day's racing wasn't too bad. The inside was a little bit off, the outside looked really off, which is weird. Normally you can sort of get to the middle and beyond at Hawkesbury. It's certainly not a disadvantage, but it's you look to get to the middle and further, and horses seem to flounder there that tend to be running on. Exo Boom was the only horse really that made a case for that not being the case, but I think it was sort of an exception rather than disproving it. So it looked like there were lanes 4 to 7 or 8 off the inside that looked the ideal position, and away from there it was a little bit more difficult. So hard fence and wider than that looked like they were disadvantages. So getting into it, the first race of the day, a slow tempo. They've gone out certainly steady and ripped home. This winner, Glen Eagles, was going 1,000 to 1,400, which is not easy, and certainly not easy for a 2-year-old. No, there were a number of horses in the race with a similar setup, so that dilutes it a little bit, but this horse has overcome a slow tempo from back in the field. It's missing the start is certainly not a good attribute, but it's, at the moment it's overcoming it, which is a real positive. And considering the run the leader's gotten, how well it's come home, this horse has done an incredible job to get over the top of them late. Hoover Lucy, certainly very solid, similar setup, 11 to 1,400 and leading. And I thought Achira was a very good late from the back in what we're saying is the worst part of the track. So I'll cut this right down. So Hoover Lucy out in front, Achira out the back here, and the winner, I'll just go back a touch, so missed the kick again. So that's twice in a row this horse, Glen Eagles, has missed the start, something to keep an eye on, but not ideal. Whereas this sort of Achira's eased out. It was settled closer first start of the race, so I think this horse can settle closer, especially up in distance, in a race of similar nature. So nothing much happens in the run. They find their positions early and bowl along. So the leaders sort of had every chance. Does stay towards the inside, which is, as we said, as the day goes on, probably not the ideal position. But this horse has settled back, got to the right part of the track. It cheers down the outside, I think, in probably a little bit softer ground. But this horse has really got an engine. Reportedly has a few breathing issues, but it's certainly not holding him back at the moment. I really like the way that Achira circled around the others. So I think the first 3 can be followed here. The winner's certainly untapped and pretty scary horse if it continues to race in this sort of nature. It's just hitting the line powerfully. I don't know how far it'll get. I don't know if that was a true test of a 1,400 or not. As you said, the slow tempo, but this horse has come from back in the field. So jury's out to me whether it runs a strong 1,400 or further. I know that's silly to say when it's gone through the line there the way it has, but it was a pretty softly run race. But gun to your head, you're going to say it's going to run 1,400. I'm more concerned it's sort of about a mile, but more because of the breathing problems than the way it's raced there, and if it sees a fast tempo. But hard to knock it off. It's 2 runs back this preparation, other than the slow start and the racing pattern it's showing, and that Achira, as if it gets up in trip, I think it can be followed even back in grade a touch, because that was a pretty strong race. Race 2, 1500 benchmark 78. They've gone out quick, come home quick here, run really quick overall time. So I can't wait to see these adjusted times. But at the moment, we'll just say that that's the main factor, that they've run good quick time, and the leaders set a fast tempo for the day especially. Clearly the fastest tempo of the day in the first half of the race, but they have come home quite well as well. So Steely's gone really well. Saigon's just a real professional, really honest performance. Spencer every possible. I thought this horse, Kerwin's Lane's run was pretty good, poking up the inside late in the day. I think this horse is a player going up to Brisbane. And Ruby Tuesday just set too fast a tempo. Louvois followed it. The Grinder was disappointing, and Global Quest. So just looking at the replay, there's not much to be learnt here from the replay other than I can't find it. I'll roll. So they've got this Ruby Tuesday jumping, which is quite incredible for a horse sort of this deep into its career now, changing its riding tactics. Probably went a bit quick, there's no doubt. Louvois sort of kicks up, makes it work, then he decides, no, I want to grab hold. And Ruby Tuesday presses forward. So you can see the gaps here, they're big right throughout the field. They're definitely going quick. And the winner, Steely, who's normally an on pace, is back in the pack here. Saigon with it, Kerwin's Lane. So all these horses that I'm interested in sort of going forward were at the back. So they're all aided by this strong tempo. But it's a strong pace, but it's not a strong tempo because they do come home quick. Kerwin's Lane sort of gets in behind Spencer here and cuts back to the inside late. This is Steely coming through. Saigon follows it through. Couple of rides from the day, and I've obviously got a connection with Josh, but what I love about is cutting the inside and then getting to the middle in the straight. So where you could easily sort of cut back to this section here, he tries to get around the heels of the leader, does successfully without halting the horse's momentum too much, and see instead of Saigon sort of going back towards that what looked inferior ground, and Steely races away. So he's been afforded every possible chance in the run, saved ground, got to the best part of the track, but very strong through the line, fast time. No knock on Steely at all. He looks to be airborne. Saigon, very similar. No knock at all. Going really well. And Kerwin's Lane poking up the inside late there, I thought was very good. Spencer did nothing wrong but had every chance. And Louvois just weakens late after working a bit too hard in the run. The Grinder was the one I thought was a bit average, but it was out in that part of the track, but still entitled to run on a little bit more. I think that form will be okay for sure. The time's great, and all the horses look like they're racing in good fashion. Even Ruby Tuesday certainly looked like maybe just overdid it a bit in front. If it can get a more conservative run in the first half of a race, it could certainly be dangerous too. Race 3, the Highway, very slow tempo again here, and they did get home okay, but slow overall time. The winner was obviously very well placed and set on its rating of what it's done before in its previous career down in Melbourne. Very good training performance to have this horse peaking on the day. Great ride, everything sort of fell into place. Was a little bit lucky. I think the third and fourth horses probably should have finished 1-2, and those back and wide I'm forgiving as well. So I don't think it's a vintage highway, a great super deep highway, but we'll have a look at it. So Golden Gorge jumped quite nicely. Charlton Park, I think this horse called A Million Tears. Spiller up there. They find their positions pretty early and then stick to them. You see there's not a great deal of tempo. The horses that I think were stiff with this, the two in here, something about Monica, is it? What's her name? And Saintly Sunrise, is it? So they're in a midfield position, and Monica just sort of never gets a little bit of Monica. What's her name? I should know. So she never really gets to the right spot, tries to cut back to the fence, gets cut off, held up, Gets cut off again, held up, and Sunrise is a bit the opposite. Tried to go to the outside, then comes back to the inside. They both look for the same run. Monica still never really clear, only a little horse. Never really gets to build its momentum. Now it's on the heels of the leader, and the grey sort of looks like it's getting away from it, but I think that's an optical illusion. You watch the head on, Monica never really gets clear running. Whereas these two up front have had every possible chance to maintain the momentum all the way. Really good ride from National Willa. Charlton Park, no knock on it. It's done a good job to lead. It's in probably the worst part of the track there, or the worst part of the track compared to the winner, and has done a pretty good job. These horses out wide I'd be forgiving of going forward. The tempo obviously against, and I think the pattern, the track pattern as well. So a bunched-ish finish. I don't think we learned a lot. Sort of horses that look to take turns. I don't think any of them would be really dominant against that same lot due to any unlucky passage or tempo or anything next start. But there's a few to be forgiving of, knowing that that they had a bit against this day if they line up against a similar opposition next start. Race 4. This horse is potentially quite exciting. Luncey's, I'm not sure what its actual name is. Savoury's obviously flying here. A really, average tempo out, and they've ripped home, even though it looked like they went pretty quick. That's sort of the look of the day. Quite weird. Sagacious sat up on that tempo, led and ran quite well. Relucent cut back to the inside, but I thought he'd had a very good setup for today, and that was probably as good as you could see from him. I think that the first two across the line, Sagacious is an improved effort, so it was good to see that, but the first two across the line, certainly the two to follow from this race, I would imagine. Even Mr. G was an improved effort, and it can improve going forward through its prep too. I thought it was a pretty positive race, considering what they do late in the race. We've got Sagacious there, so rolling forward, Yangtze Rapid. Savoury lobs into a nice position. The winner inside it. So I thought the winner was going to be in a bit of trouble when Savoury crosses in front of it and then dictates to it. So he couldn't get to the middle when he wanted to. He was forced back to the inside. In this section here, you see he really wants to get around the heels of Savoury, but he's held up. We've got a horse second up with a big weight, over 1,800 metres, and they're ripping home here, and he certainly doesn't look a sit sprinting type, so he doesn't want to be held up for momentum is what I'm saying. Again, he doesn't want to fall for the inside trick if he can avoid it, and ends up getting around the heels of Savoury here, and that's probably the winning move. The horse again sort of takes a few strides to balance up once he sees the gap, and you just got to love this last 100 metres. Like, wow. I know it's a weird angle, but that's a really strong finishing power there. This horse was only second up 1,800. It's got form to 1.5 miles over in the UK, and you'd expect it. Whatever he's done there, he'll improve off. I really like the win of this horse. I think he's got really strong upside, and I'd be very surprised if that's his top. I think there's more to him, and I don't think everything was in his favour this day. It was a pretty good ride. Like, he had a conservative run in transit, but I don't think Hawkesbury's going to be his track. I don't think a sit sprint's going to be his track, his option, and I don't think 1,800's going to be as far as he wants either. So plenty to like about the win here for me. Probably the win of the day for me. The second horse is just flying, going really well. Probably a drop back to 1 mile, I think, would be ideal for it. Just looks like that 1,800 maybe stretched a little bit too far. Relucent certainly going well enough to run well, as is Sagacious wherever they go, and Mr. G was the one that was coming off a bit of a failure, and I don't think this is a soft race. So even though it's again had pretty much every chance in the right part of the track, it was good to see it sort of back on track, and it can probably improve again off that. But I think the first 5 across the line there are going well enough to be competitive wherever they go. The winner certainly, not sure where it goes, but one to follow, and Savoury, if it drops back in distance, I think it'll be hard to beat again. It's going well. Race 5, I didn't learn a lot here. Sweet Deal had the setup, got the run. Obviously, A Theory's the one that just had no luck at all from that inside draw. Nash was the got to the middle and found the spot where a Theory didn't, and that was basically game over. Air to Air's racing really well. Generals was a good effort. Obviously had the right tempo to suit, but a good ride from the wide gate to press on. Probably was the move that helped it to run second. Thought it was probably a little bit flattered if anything, but it did work a bit early, so don't want to be too harshly against it. And Air to Air ran nicely again. I thought Alison the Tuffy wasn't too bad for a much easier race, but a hard horse to place at this point. Looking at this replay, interesting early. There was a bit more pressure than I thought. Like, it looked like here that they were going to lob 1-2 Sweet Deal at a Theory. Obviously, Nash has come out a little bit negative where they said they wanted to ride it off the speed. That's a pet hate of mine, because you see he sort of ends back, whereas he could have been up outside a Theory and holding that forward position. Because he's gone out there negative, or to take a sit, he ends up 2 or 3 pairs further back and in an awkward position. It works out well for him, but it could have gone pear-shaped. Everyone sort of found their positions here. And this is Sweet Deal getting the gap to the outside, or Nash forcing a passage, whereas a Theory goes for a similar run, and that run closes and never opens. So a very strong win, really. She's a good mare, Sweet Deal. I know that's her last run for John Thompson potentially, and who knows where she goes now, whether it's the breeding barn or that's her last race. But very strong win. Nothing much more to be learnt. This is Alison and Tuffy back on the inside. Air to Air getting through the middle, and as you said, like Generals was a very solid effort, but did have its chance in the run after having to do a little bit of work early. Got it nice up in front. So these are sort of horses, again, like we were saying at the highway, they're going to be competitive against each other, and it's sort of nitpicking to find the gap. Sweet Deal just had the setup to be dominant there and got the right run. It takes away a little bit of the quality of the race, with the Theory being basically untested up the running. So don't want to go overboard, but Sweet Deal's run well. General's okay, but don't go crazy on the run, and similar to Air, it's beaten a wall for third. It's just racing well. I don't want to be too negative on anything in this race, because they'll end up in a similar race next start, and it's more about where they are in the run probably than the difference in ability levels. They're pretty similarly graded. Hawkesbury Rush was run at a far slower or more conservative tempo than was expected, I think, from most people, including myself. They didn't really go that hard. They found their positions, even if they sat wide, and sort of no one poured the pressure on. What impressed me about this win of Embrace, it used to be a horse that looked like it was a speed horse. Now it's sat up on a moderate tempo and accelerated nicely off it and put a field away quite comfortably. A few failures in the race, but I think they were just sort of a field of solid performers, and Embraces just caned them. So Embrace can probably go on. Who else did I talk about this race? Varda was okay, just sort of never travels in the run. I thought Black Magnum got home nicely from a wide draw, having to be ridden conservatively. That's him second from the outside there in the Derby colours. He probably gets back further than he would normally in a race, so he can improve with a better draw and a better map. And I thought Just Field was really good up the inside. Damien Lane's got this horse going really well. If it found something a bit easier, but Embrace is probably the one to follow. So this is Embracer finding its position. 3 wide outside the leaders. The other horse is Black Magnum getting back. Just Field cutting up the inside, is that it? And there's Varda in the middle. So it sort of just loses its spot and niggled along the whole way. So its effort wasn't too bad. But coming up to here, we'll see that Tim gets busy on Embracer in a second and just puts the race away in about 100 metres. So shows its turn of foot there and puts the field away, puts 2 or 3 on them, and that's it. Just Field cutting back towards the inside. This is Black Magnum getting it down the outside where very few runners made ground. And Varda sort of whacking away with that along. So they're all solid enough performances behind, but similarly, they're a pretty bunched go, whereas Embrace has shown that nice turn of foot to put the race away, and it's probably the one you want to follow going up to Brisbane. I could follow Just Feel back to an easier race, and I could follow this horse with a better map and draw next time, and possibly ride a change. Hawkesbury Guineas race 7. Ellsberg was really well fancied here. Seemed to sit up outside what was a solid tempo for sure. Probably more solid than expected, but not sure what the go was with Acrophobic, but with the blinkers on and the inside draw and the aggressive rider, that was always a chance of happening. But still, Ellsberg was probably a bit plain, a bit one-paced. You'd expect him to have sort of gone past that leader, put it away, and then something to have come out of the pack to catch it, and that never really happened. So the winner was a good effort. Come down the widest of all winners of the day. The final sections were still okay. One of the slower for the day, but still good. And knocked half them over down the running, probably helped getting back to the better part of the track. Rainbow Connection again missed the kick, got back. Jason Collett normal effort, staying hard on the fence. Whether that helped or hindered it is hard to say. The last winner does come up the inside, but probably not the ideal spot down the running. And Exo Booms found that ideal spot after laying in and found the fast lane, or for want of a better word, down the running late. Black Duke was one of them that got knocked over. Ellsberg got knocked over. Eisenbill was very solid, and Aim and Calgary Keen okay. I think that the first two across the line, and I would be forgiving of Ellsberg for a bit of a flat run. Are the two. Black Duke could probably find something that's touch easier. I don't think it would have won the race if it hadn't have been interfered with. There was a protest, but I thought that was pretty much pie in the sky stuff. So this is Exo Boom in the Triple Crown colours out wide. As you said, Rainbow Connection keeps missing the start. That's a problem for it. There is a bit of pressure early in the race, and Ellsberg has to work outside leader, but I don't think it was the undoing of the horse. Exo Boom to the outside, Rainbow Connection sprints sharply up the inside and then sort of levels out, gets past Eliza Bill quickly. I would have been trying to push out here personally, but that's each to their own, and we see that Exo Boom comes in on the top, knocks over these two. Didn't change the result, didn't change much really, but a big strong horse that looks like he can probably get a bit further without trouble. What's he won over already? So he's a winner to 1,500 already in dominant fashion. Strong through the line late there, like the fastest last 600 of the day over 1,500 metres. So he's a horse that's going to continue to improve as he gets up in trip, and he can be a force up in Brisbane for sure. Second horse is doing this all on its first preparation, but a very talented horse. And Ellsberg, as you're sort of saying, I'd be forgiving of that run. There's no doubt he hasn't run up to his first up effort, and maybe just looking for further, staying at 1,400. Maybe the track was a bit firm. I'm not really sure, but his effort there, I'd be forgiving of one off. Hawkesbury Cup looks like they go quick here, but they don't. They go extremely slow, and the winner is just well ridden. Second horse tracks it, gets its chance. Looks like Elvis has missed the kick, or he's out the back late, and another Collett one up the fence. Thought his effort was okay, Purple Sector. So these two were like solid. These two were the well set up horses that just ran well, and I thought that was about all we could learn. There wasn't much more to be learnt. I don't know how strong this form is. I don't know where it translates to, but the efforts were solid. Like this surreal image goes out, looks quick but not going fast. You look at that, like it looks like they're flying, but they're not. Graceful Glamour, well and truly there, and then we get Archidemus sort of rolls into the race at the right time. I think that Sam Clipperton's fallen into the trap a bit, that he thought they went a bit quicker than they did here, and instead of getting moving, he decided to track Archidemus and maybe just forced into the wider part of the track there too. He didn't realise how quick they're sprinting home, I'd say, and sort of just left his horse too big a task. In saying that, he's definitely had his chance to get past him, and the winner was just too strong. Purple Sector okay, looks like Elvis okay from back in the field, cutting up that inside. So it's just hard to tell how big a disadvantage that was, especially when we see him pass come up there in the last. But I think wider was a bigger disadvantage than the inside by this part of the day. Not much to be learned here. Both of these two can be followed, no doubt, going forward. Looks like Elvis and Purple Sector, each to their own. They're both going okay. The last is probably a race where there's a few that can be found. They went along okay. This is the closest tempo to it and the Hawkesbury Guineas of an even tempo for the day, or in race 2, Steely. They've gone out just below and come home above average again. A weird day of all slow tempos. So Impasses out the back. I don't want to talk to you, go away. Impasses out the back here. The other horse that I'm interested in going forward is a horse called Opacity. Vitesse is right behind them and goes well in Grand Rumour. He's in the Australian Bloodstock colours here behind the leader. They all look to have run quite well here. Getting to the straight, so Impasse cuts back to the inside. What I like about it is that it's sprinted quickly and put the race away. There's obviously a bit of argy-bargy in here which has helped it do that, but it's done it all in that dubious part of the track and maintained it to the line. Maybe even a little bit hidden late its performance when it sort of comes back to them a bit, but it's done it all in the worst part of the track. Opacity here in the, I should know the name of the colour, the syndication colours, in the red with the white. You see it just never really tested, gets smashed about 4 times. Vitesse was a bit stiff. I think if it got to the outside of the leaders here, instead of having to cut back and get held up for momentum, would have been in the finish. And Grand Rumour behind it as well, as in a similar boat. I didn't really think it burst through the line. I thought, you reprice the race. I can't mark it so short as everyone else has, but I thought its effort was okay for sure, and maybe looking for a little bit further, potentially just struggles to sprint with them at this point of the race. But I thought winner, second horse is ready to win in a similar race, third horse is ready to win in a similar race, and I thought the horse that was well and truly hidden first up was Opacity, and no damage should be done to it from this run, and it can come out and run well, even up in Brisbane. It's a pretty good horse, big weight with an apprentice here, senior jockey back on it. It can certainly turn this performance around. But as you can see again, pretty bunched, not jumping out of trees to back or lay any of these next up, but I thought the winner certainly can't be knocked, and Vitesse has had its chance, but a bit stiff, but that's its sort of horse, probably neutral on it, neutral on this thing, and this is just a horse that you could throw in your black book because it was a complete forgive today, and I think it nearly would have won the race if it got clear running. Let's look at the meeting. Pretty straightforward, to be honest. I didn't think there was anything too exciting there. Probably just forgiving of horses out wide mainly, and those hard fence in the straight. I'd like to revisit a little bit quickly once all the times are finalised and everything, because it was a bit of a funny day. So, thanks guys.